Hey Kayla,
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. It's 9 a.m. for you, all the way in New York City. Am I correct?
Yes, it is.
Thank you for taking the time, to speak to all of us today. And we are from Singapore. We also have a lot of viewers tuning in from different parts of Asia. So to all of you who are tuning in today, thank you so much for joining us. And you can drop in a comment, let us know where you're tuning in from, and say hi to Kayla. Kayla, I'm so excited for this chat. I've always been so intrigued by the different ways to improve our brain health and biohacking. And I've been following your content for the last year, and have really also gained so much from everything that you've been sharing. So Kayla, maybe because the comments are slightly covering your face, is it okay if maybe we sit either to the side or slightly high? Yeah, just so that I want
Any
everybody to be able to see you very clearly. Yeah, thank you
good?
so
Is it
much.
better?
Yes, it's better. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so people are tuning in from London, Philippines, Malaysia. So Kayla, maybe you want to do a quick introduction and share with us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure, yeah. So I'm a certified brain health coach. I have a background in nutrition, and I trained under one of the most renowned brain doctors in the world. His name is Dr. Daniel Amen. He really revolutionized psychiatry by looking at the brain. We're currently living in a state that we often know that there's something maybe off with our mental health or mood or brain health. And he really started to look under the hood of what's going on with the actual physical structure of the brain. So I specialize in brain health. I do a lot in the biohacking space, functional
Yeah.
medicine, and it's really how can we improve the quality of our life by getting to the root cause of what's going wrong.
Amazing. And how long have you been a brain health coach?
I've been a brain health coach for about 7 years, but I've been in the field for about 10 or 11.
Wow. And
Yeah.
what led you to pursue this path?
A lot of it was my own personal journey. I think I was a really sick kid. Grew up getting medication often, because I was just always sick. I was eating a lot of food that was, I think, leading to a lot of the ailments that I was experiencing. So when I got a little older, I started to look on my own. What could the root cause be? Why am I feeling like this? I was on ADHD medication, so it was hard for me to focus on my own. And I knew that there had to be a better way. So I started to really dive into potential options for me. And then just by osmosis, I wanted to start helping other people because I started to feel incredible amounts of energy and focus. And I was using food as medicine. And I was like, wait, this is a game changer. Why are we not talking about this more? So I started sharing a little bit about my background in knowledge on Instagram only like a year and a half or 2 years ago, but it's been incredible. I have a great community over there now. And I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for it, by the way. But yeah, for me, I also knew, as taking a little bit of a step back, I also knew that
Mm.
if I wanted to get to where I wanted to be in life, I was going to have to address my brain health. So when I say brain health, I mean both the physical structure of my brain, how my brain was functioning, but also how I was thinking. So the brain, I see it in two ways. So there's the physical structure of the brain, and we're going to talk about all the habits that we
Yeah.
can implement in our daily life to improve the physical structure of our brain. But it's also, a big part of it is how we think and how our minds are working. So it was really for me, I wanted to get to a place that I knew was going to be a little bit more difficult if I didn't work on the physical health of my brain and my mindset.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and I would love to go so much into that because I think we there is so much that lies in the power of our minds and our brains, right? And Kayla, I wanted to ask you too, in your years of being in this space, speaking to different clients and different communities, what is one thing that people misunderstand the most about brain health?
I think that people misunderstand that we have so much power over our brain health. And when we go back and think about what does brain health really mean? Okay, so let's talk about how we're treating our brain. And we don't have to just be stuck to one specific mood. So I know that so many people these days are struggling. And it's kind of something I've been focusing a lot recently because we have so much power over our health. And there's certainly instances in which, and my heart goes out to these people that, you know, there's some limitations as to what you can do. But for the vast majority of people, we have so much power over our mood. We have so much power over our health. We have so much power over the direction that we're going. So I think it's a little bit misunderstood, even in the medical literature and in medical teachings years ago. They thought that the brain was separated from the rest of the body by something called the blood-brain barrier, which it is. There's a protective layer, but we now know that our brains are connected to our bodies, you know, through the vagus nerve. What we do to our bodies impacts our brain. So I think the biggest thing for me is just, I want people to understand that we have so much power to change the way that we think, to change the way that we're motivated or our mood. And there's things that we can do to help improve all of those things.
Wow. And you spoke a lot about, you know, how the brain directly affects, and in a sense, we can control the way we feel. And in that sense, also, it directly affects our mood, right? So that's something that's within our control. You spoke earlier also about, you know, the different habits that we can inculcate within ourselves to improve our brain health. Could you share with us some of those that, you know, and the science behind them as well?
Yeah, so when we talk about physical structure of the brain, how can we nourish our brain? And for me, now in my life, everything is brain first. How it was what I'm doing going to affect my brain. So that, let's start with food. Food is something that we all do roughly 2 to 3 times a day, maybe 4 or maybe less, depending on what type of diet you're on. But when we think about food, it's so much more than just calories, you know, it's information for our cells. So everything that we eat, that's what our body is then running off of. And our brain is only about 2 to 3 pounds, but it consumes about 20 to 30% of all of our energy. So it's a really highly, you know, calorically requiring organ. So if you think about it, do you want your brain to run off of like Doritos, or do you want your brain to run off like organic blueberries and grass-fed steak maybe? So nutrition is such a core pillar. Also, your nutrition can, you know, either promote or reduce inflammation, which inflammation in the body, we know, is a big driver of chronic disease. But also, if you have inflammation in the body, you can have inflammation in the brain. So nutrition is a really core pillar. And I'll run over some of the top brain health diet tips that I have. So we want to have a lot of like wild caught fish. It has DHA and EPA. So yeah, and you know, it's interesting because our food sources are always changing these days. So here in the States, you know, there's a lot of different chemicals that are allowed in food. I know it's different elsewhere. I'm not exactly sure how your regulations are, but there's a lot of things that can be snuck into the food. And there's also, you know, farmed salmon that they keep in what I would deem unfair conditions, and then the animal is not as healthy for you to eat. So I always try to do wild caught salmon, but that's a big staple because we want those omega-3s, those DHA and EPA. I also love wild blueberries or some low glycemic fruit. Any fruit is okay. I'm okay with fruit, but blueberries are loaded with polyphenols and antioxidants. So those are really good for you. Same thing with dark chocolate, actually. Dark chocolate is a brain superfood. So you want to look for something.
That's good to know.
And it tastes amazing. Yeah. So you want to look for chocolate that's 70% higher in cacao. So milk chocolate is not going to quite cut it. So you want to do the dark chocolate because antioxidants, polyphenols, it's also a mitochondrial uncoupler. Caffeine is actually okay for brain health too if you get organic. People ask me this question all the time, but I would limit it to about 2 cups a day because if you drink too much caffeine, matcha is always also wonderful. So great antioxidants in matcha. I'm a little bit more of a caffeine girl myself, but when it comes to coffee, you want to make sure it's organic, lab tested, because again, we have to think of everything that we put into our body as fuel. So coffee here, you know, it's one of the most highly pesticided crops in the world. So some of the glyphosate that they're spraying on the crops can be harmful to the body. So we want to try to eliminate that. So organic and lab tested is a big deal when it comes to coffee. So
wow, where do I even start? Like, is that something that is that we can easily find that's readily available? Or especially when you talk about the organic lab tested coffee?
Yeah, so it's pretty available, I think, at least
Mm,
over here. So my friend Dave Asprey has a brand. It's called Danger Coffee. He's been
okay.
really big into molds, testing for molds and mycotoxins really early on, because
Yeah.
coffee can either be, like a brain boosting food, or it can actually steal your energy if you're drinking what I would call contaminated coffee. So
Yeah.
Danger Coffee is a brand. A lot of times, if you just look up, organic, and then look into the brand and see if
Okay.
they've done any lab testing, that's usually pretty helpful.
And
So go ahead.
yeah, no, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about sugar because, in your podcast episodes, you talk a lot about the damage that sugar does to our bodies, our brains. And that was honestly, when I heard about it, was pretty terrifying. And also how in your personal diet, you tried to cut out sugar as well, right? Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so sugar in some forms is not that harmful. Our brain can run off glucose, which is its
Yeah.
primary fuel source, or it can run off ketones. But the problem is we're consuming way too much sugar. So,
Mhm.
the way that I like to get sugar is only from lower GI fruits like blueberries, blackberries,
Like
with the
natural sugars.
natural sugars, right? We want to
Yeah.
completely eliminate refined sugars. So, especially here, they're adding sugar into everything, like
Yeah.
ketchup, sauces. Everything that you're consuming is loaded with sugar. So, high amounts of sugar intake lead to inflammation. And again, we don't want inflammation in the body, and we don't want inflammation in the brain. Additionally, every time that we consume food, we have a glucose response. So, a lot of
Mm.
people, they want clear thinking, right? So, in order to achieve that, we can't have insane glucose spikes throughout the day. So, when we consume food, our body reacts and we have a glucose response. The glucose response can either be pretty stable, meaning we have a meal that is really well rounded with maybe some, good healthy protein and some healthy fats, and then maybe a little bit of carb. So, the glucose response is going to be less. But if we're eating like a ton of refined sugar, our glucose is going to spike through the roof and then it's going to crash. And then that's going to lead to brain fog and a bunch of other ailments in the body, like inflammation over time. So, to be really clear, sugar is not the enemy in a natural form. Our
Okay.
brain does run off sugar. It can also run off ketones. So, it's okay to go in between maybe a state of ketosis, but we just don't want to have excess sugar. And I think people would be really surprised
Yeah.
when they look at the ingredient label, how much sugar they're actually consuming, because it's
Yeah.
not just in the form of cake, or necessarily you're not eating desserts all day so you think you're not consuming very much sugar, but they sneak it into the ingredients. So you want to just pay a lot of attention to the ingredients on the back of the label. And a little fun tip for anyone that doesn't know, the amounts are listed in order. So if sugar is the first or second ingredient, and there's many forms of sugar and different names of sugar, then you want to just be really careful about that. So let's limit our sugar intake. Again, I just do organic fruits, so blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, things
Mm.
like that for my sugar sources.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing all of that. I think I would definitely also, I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing a lot of it too, and I think for me also to be able to expand my mind and check all of those out too. But besides the food that we consume and our diet, how else, Kayla, would you recommend for us to improve our brain health?
So let's finish up on the diet first. So we have
Okay.
wild caught fish. Protein is really important, getting an adequate amount of protein, because protein actually breaks into amino acids, which is the base of our neurotransmitters. So it builds our neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are things like, GABA, serotonin, dopamine. Dopamine and serotonin are probably some of the most popular because dopamine is involved. It's our motivation, basically. It drives us to receive a reward. So it gives us a lot of motivation.
Mm.
Serotonin is known as the happiness chemical. So has a lot to do with our mood. It also impacts our sleep. So those are the most popular, but getting an adequate amount of protein is really, really important. It depends on what your body goals are, how much, but it could be like 0.8 per pound, but it depends on your goals again. So
Mm.
enough protein is important, and great sources of protein, of course. So I do consume grass-fed and grass-finished meats. Liver is actually, I know people might think it's not the best tasting, but it's one of the most nutritionally dense foods on the planet. I have some posts about this, but that's definitely kind of like nature's multivitamin. And then organic dark leafy greens. So I'm not a huge fan of kale because it can contain kind of high levels of heavy metals, but I do like things like spinach, like slightly cooked spinach, arugula, things of that nature. But those organic and dark leafy greens are also really helpful for the body. So we have cacao, we have some coffee can be helpful. We have the wild caught fish, adequate protein, and healthy fats. The brain is mostly made of fat and water. So things like extra virgin olive oil, things like organic avocado, those are things that should be staples in our diet. So I have a healthy fat with pretty much every meal. Maybe a little bit of MCT oil. The brain really thrives off MCT oil. I know that, you know, Bulletproof coffee is popular here, but there's a reason why, because it combines that organic coffee with a little bit of brain boosting, you know, MCT oil and a little bit of grass-fed butter mixed into a coffee so that you kind of get that morning energy burst for the brain. So definitely food. So we have food, and then we have water. So water is also so important. You know, even a little bit of dehydration in our brains can make us have less clear thinking. We can get brain fog, busy brain, which is like where we can't really focus on one specific topic. So making sure you get enough water. I usually say half of your body weight in ounces of water. So if you're like 130 pounds, you might have maybe like, I think it's 65. Math is not my strongest suit, but I think it's 65 ounces of water. And you want to make sure it's good quality water. So I do reverse osmosis water because we want to eliminate or reduce the toxin exposure that we have every single day. And we'll go into that more. But so I do reverse osmosis water, and then I remineralize it because that kind of brings out everything, really one of the most clean forms of water. And then we want to remineralize it. But traditional tap water, at least here, I mean, it can have chlorine, it can have pharmaceuticals, it can have all of these byproducts that we don't want in our water. I even say do filtered shower water if you can, because it's good for your skin, but our skin is our largest organ. So we don't want to have, you know, a toxic water in our, as we shower every day, because our skin is absorbing that. And so a shower water filter can be really helpful in staying really hydrated. So that's another thing. I would say another huge one is sleep. So I wear an Oura ring. This actually tracks my sleep, but deep sleep is so important to brain health. It's prioritizing that time to let your brain actually rest, you know? So while we sleep, we have something called our glymphatic system. And our glymphatic system is our cellular waste cleaning system for the brain. And it's most active at night. So if we're missing deep stages of sleep, we're not allowing our brains to, we'll just make it simple and say clean themselves out. So then, you know, things like that could potentially lead to neurodegenerative diseases later in life. They accumulate because it's shown that severe sleep deprivation, even one night of poor sleep, can like increase your blood pressure. It can lower your actual blood flow to your brain. It can increase cravings. It can decrease your mood. So one night of sleep is bad, but especially if people are finding themselves sleep deprived on a consistent basis, then they're really going to struggle to A, have really good brain health, but also B, just have great motivation. We also store memories while sleeping. It's so incredibly important. So the recommendation is 7 to 9 hours a night, but with things like the Oura Ring, we can track our sleep and make sure we're getting high quality sleep, because some people, they may be sleeping for 9 hours, but if you're tossing and turning all night long and you're not getting high quality sleep, you're still not necessarily getting as many benefits as you could be. So I think that the Oura Ring is really interesting. A couple of sleep tips that I have for people is magnesium. So many people are deficient in magnesium. It's worth getting a test to see if you need some more magnesium, but I like to take a full spectrum magnesium, which has 7 different forms of magnesium. So making sure your magnesium levels are optimized is a good place to start. Wearing blue light blockers at night, like so the yellow or red glasses, because all of the artificial lighting that we're experiencing throughout the day is really messing with something called our circadian rhythm. So that's our natural sleep wake
Sleep.
cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and another way to set your circadian rhythm in the morning is to go out and get some natural light within like 10 to 20 minutes of waking up. So, in my morning routine, I get up, I get some natural light in the eyes, and that's going to tell our bodies that it's time to wake up. And then it'll also help you sleep later at night. So, that's a big one. I also love to do like a cold room. So, if we're too hot, when we sleep, our bodies actually drop down about a degree. So if we're too hot, then we're going to be waking up throughout the night. So I keep my room around 65 degrees Fahrenheit. And then another big one is light. So we talked about wearing the blue light blockers, but also at night, we want to have our room to be really dark, because even light on the skin also can affect our circadian rhythm. So I keep, like, I can't see my hand in front of my face when I'm in my room at night. So that's another big one.
Do you wear any form of
blue light blockers? Yeah. I use the red ones. And then so the yellow ones are like yellow orange are like for throughout the day, and then the red ones are actually for night. So it even blocks more of the light. And then there's an amazing, if you look on Google, look up red light phone trick, and it will
phone trick.
Phone trick. So on the side of my phone, I hit 3 buttons or 3 little taps on the side, and it turns the phone completely red. So we have the option on our iPhones to have it change throughout the day. So it'll be slightly orange, but this turns it totally red, which is great because A, the pictures are less interesting, so you don't want to be on there so much. But B, you also get all the benefits of not being blasted by blue light. So that's another big one. And try to do relaxing things at night. I mean, people like stay up watching a scary show on Netflix or something and think that they're going to fall asleep after, I mean, like, just do things that are going to put your body into a parasympathetic state, which is a state of relaxation. So that could be meditating, it could be reading a book, it could be taking a bath, it could be many things, but we have to put practices in place to keep us on track. Otherwise we'll just do what humans naturally want to do, which is like do whatever's easiest or most distracting. So we'll stay on our phones, but
or just scroll endlessly.
Right. And if I can be so clear, it's not okay, or not, you shouldn't be on social media just scrolling and then missing sleep. Because if you want to be productive, if you want to be motivated, if you want to have a good mood, we have to give ourselves the tools to do that. And things like we talked about diet, things like sleep. Everyone knows if you get 1 poor night's sleep, you're not going to function as well as you could. So what does that mean? That's going to then lead to decreased motivation to do the healthy habits that you want to do. So
no, thank you so much, Kayla, for sharing, and for yourself too. I think in your podcast episode and in the content that you share, you also talk a lot about morning routines and how we set ourselves and our day for success, right? I mean, from what you've shared, one thing that I've taken away is that we have to be very intentional. We cannot leave anything to chance, right? Be it the food that we eat, the nutrients that we have within our bodies, and of course, the night routine, like you said, right? You cannot just aimlessly scroll through. I think we have to be very intentional, because especially when we're going to unwind, shut down, and our body needs to, and our brains need to rest. We need to set ourselves up for that. So talk me through a little bit more about your morning routine, because I think one thing that I've heard in your podcast is also that it's important that we set the tone of the day for ourselves instead of letting the world set it for us. So what are some of your morning routines and habits?
Sure. So I have a pretty strict morning routine, because again, if you don't set your mind before you go out into the day, anything that happens is going to derail you, right? So I like to basically leave the house with like a bulletproof mind and body. So in the morning, I do my natural sunlight. So I pretty much get up, try to, especially in the summer months, I take a quick walk outside. In the winter months, I use something called retimer glasses, and that mimics the sun, because many times, we don't have sunshine all year round. So I get some morning sun. And then I usually head to the gym. I like to get my workout done in the morning. Exercise is another key pillar of brain health. So we boost our brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which actually increases and promotes new neuron growth. So of course we want to do that. It increases serotonin, which is our happiness chemical. It increases dopamine. It increases blood flow. Exercise is one of the best things you can do for brain anti-aging, and meditation, but we'll talk about that in a second. So I go to the gym, get a nice workout. I already feel better. I've never went to a workout that I regretted. You know, I never went to the gym and then said, oh, I really regret doing that. You always feel better. You always feel more motivated. So then I come home, I do a cold shower. If you're trying to put on a lot of muscle, you don't want to take a cold shower right after working out, because it's actually going to reduce the inflammation in the body. And we don't want to necessarily do that if we're trying to put on a lot of muscle. So for me, my goals are, you know, lean, healthy, not trying to put on a ton of muscle. So I'll take a cold shower. Other benefits of cold showers are it can improve the strength of the blood-brain barrier. So the blood-brain barrier, we talked about the protective mechanism between the brain and the body. We can weaken the blood-brain barrier through things like alcohol consumption, high levels of stress, poor sleep. And the blood-brain barrier is kind of like the gut, you know, with gut health. We've all heard of leaky gut, but there's also something called leaky brain. So we want to keep the permeability really intact of the blood-brain barrier. So cold shower is great for that. It also significantly boosts your dopamine. So I have some, you know, dopamine increases from the gym, and then I have the cold shower, which is going to do it even more. And it also boosts.
Kayla, I wanted to ask, sorry, when you talk about cold shower, is there a specific time frame that would be optimal?
So it's really about your tolerance. So I would like to see it be around 5 minutes, or a cold plunge for a couple minutes. But this sounds, it's so difficult. So you got to work up to this, right? So 30 seconds at the end is great. You're going to feel an energy boost. If you really want to get some of the intense cold benefits, like brown fat increase, or, you know, decreasing inflammation systemically in a very serious way, you need to do it for a little while longer. But even just a quick, you know, 30 seconds at the end, and then work up. It gets easier. It really does.
I tried it. I've been trying it for a couple of months, and I gave up because it's so tough. It's so hard. Even though in Singapore it's summer all year long and it's hot, but I find cold showers really tough, and I think that's something. It's really mind over matter, and I need to really get stronger at that.
But when you were doing it, did you feel better? Did you feel energy? Did you feel like?
Yes, though. Yes, absolutely.
It's amazing energy source.
Yeah, it is. It's true. And I think it's just the process that, you know, we have to get through. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. It's not, but you know what? When you do something hard in the morning too, it also promotes other things that are hard. So when you do something that's hard in the morning, and I always say this, just do something that's hard, because one win leads to many wins. So when you do that, you're proud of yourself, you're energized, you know, your serotonin is increased, your dopamine is increased, and over time it can help with systemic inflammation. So there's a lot of reasons to do cold shower. So I do the cold shower. Then I have a red light panel, and you want to make things as easy as possible. If we make things really difficult to do, we're probably not going to do them, right? So
we kind of stack them.
Yeah, so I have a red light therapy panel right on the back of my door in my bedroom. So hop out of the shower, while I'm brushing my hair, while I'm applying my lotions, I do red light therapy. Red light therapy topical benefits are things like decreased inflammation in the skin, better skin elasticity, promotes collagen, all these things. But I really like it for the deeper benefits for the mitochondria. So mitochondria are the powerhouses of our cell, and it really energizes those mitochondria. So I spend about 10 to 15 minutes in front of the red light panel, and then I get all these benefits, and I'm already doing other things anyway. So I'm not spending a lot of time. I'm brushing my hair, doing all the things. You can brush your teeth. You can do a lot of things in front of the red light panel. But I do that next. And by this point, I already feel great, right? My mind is turned on. My brain is active. I feel good. Had a cold shower, had a workout. And then I really start to focus on mindset. So I do a gratitude practice every day, because you can't be grateful and hateful at the same time. And I think that we live in a society, especially with Instagram, that we often forget what we do have. So if we woke up this morning, we're already in a better position than some people on the planet. You know, we woke up, we have a house, so a roof over our head, we have,
Yeah.
you know, friends, things of that nature. So I write down everything I'm grateful for. But the key to the gratitude practice is that you really have to feel it. So you can't just go through the motions. And this should be like this with everything in life. I always say, how you do anything is how you do everything. So when you're sitting down for a gratitude practice, really feel it and experience joy around those emotions. So I do my gratitude practice, and then I usually do a meditation. So sometimes I do meditation at night, sometimes I do it in the morning. Kind of depends on how much time I have. But I have a little device called a Focus Calm. It's like a little neurofeedback headband. So that's where we're bringing biohacking into it. But it tells you, you know, basically like your brainwave state and if you're achieving deep meditation or not. Because for me, I want to be the most effective with the time that I'm spending. So I do between a 15 to 25-minute meditation in the morning. So I'm then focused, I'm then energized, I'm grateful, all the things that you want to be before you walk out the door. And then also before, like the first thing I do when I wake up is my oral health care. So our oral health and our brain health is directly connected. Our oral health is actually connected to our heart as well. So good oral health is important. I wake up in the morning, I do something called tongue scraping. So it's like
Me
an
too.
practice. Yeah. So
Yeah.
scraping. Then I do some swishing with coconut oil. And
What's the benefit of swishing with coconut oil?
So it's antibacterial. So
Okay.
you want to keep, you know, the bacteria in the mouth, the bad bacteria down. It can also naturally wet your teeth. So
Great.
it's good for those reasons.
Okay.
But I do that while doing something else. So sometimes I'll do like a little bit of stretching, or I'll turn on a podcast in the morning too. That's like another throughout either at the gym or while I'm doing red light therapy. I always listen to something inspirational because again, it's all about priming your mind for the day. How do you want to go out into the world that day? What do you want to accomplish? If we don't have a plan, then we're just going to kind of follow whatever distractions that we find. We'll be derailed by someone's mean comment or something of that nature. So we have to decide how we feel. And so that's
And at this point of your morning routine, have you checked your phone and your emails or messages?
So I don't check my emails until I get into the office or my clinic.
Okay.
But I mean, do I look at my phone throughout the gym workout? I do, because I have like my training program on there. But I'm not addressing anything really serious at that point. So yeah, I try to stay off the phone as long as I can, but I also kind of follow my training regimen on my phone. So I'm not going to say I don't look at it at all, but I really get into, you know, naturally if we can kind of do our best to stick to a natural flow of work. So we're not meant to just work consistently throughout the day. We have to take breaks.
Yeah.
So about every 90 minutes, we should be taking a little bit of a break for a few minutes, maybe getting a walk, some fresh air. And I try to block my day like that because it's simply more productive. If we think we're just going to sit at a computer for 8-9 hours on end, it's just not how our brains really work. So blocking out your work, I block my work in about 90-minute sections so that I can be the most productive and the most focused. Some people say, you know, that they do like 25 or 30 minutes, but it actually takes us about 15 minutes or so just to get into that deep work. Yeah. So we don't want to make it too short, but we don't want to make it too long either.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's pretty much my morning routine. I'm trying to think if I'm missing something. I eat 2 meals a day, if anyone is curious, but I get in all the calories that I need. So my first meal, I have some usually like cold smoked salmon, some wild caught smoked salmon with some avocado, a little bit of EVOO on there, extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of arugula. And then I have a super nutrient dense smoothie. So I put all sorts of stuff in there, like tons of product like spirulina, chlorella. I put MCT oil in there. I put goat's milk kefir in there. I put some liver in there. I put some greens powder in there. I put some alpha GPC, which is like a brain nutrient. I put some fish oil in there. I put so many things in my smoothie. A little
Yeah.
bit dark. Okay. So I put so many things in my smoothie. So I put collagen protein in there. I put colostrum in there, creatine, because I have this after, my workout too. So I just loaded up with like the most nutrient dense things. But I also would just caution, if you stop by like a regular smoothie shop, a lot of times they'll put a little bit of
Sugar.
sugar in there for really no reason, or a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm so glad that this session is going to be recorded because of all the things that you've just said, and the ingredients and the food that you mentioned. I just want to make sure I get all of that down. Thanks for sharing your morning routine with us, Kayla. I think there's so much that we can get out of it, and the essence of the importance of, being intentional about setting our day right. I wanted to ask you a question, and this is maybe more something I'm personally also very interested about. You mentioned earlier that we're actually able to control our moods, right? And for women, we go through period once a month, right? And that's when also our bodies experience so much hormonal changes, and it affects the way we feel about ourselves, lethargy, and our moods. Like sometimes we become moody, or it really affects us. So is there something that we can do about it, or how do you personally cope when it happens for you at that time of the month?
Well, I think maybe it's a good idea to talk about an overview of moods versus just specific times of the month. Because first of all, let's talk a little bit about neuroplasticity, right? So when we think our brain looks different today than it did yesterday, and it's going to look different tomorrow than it looks today based on the inputs. So if we are living in a state of fear, or constantly scrolling negative news sources, or like if you think about your day, do you mostly have negativity coming at you? And if so, the neurons, and this is how our brain works, the neurons for negativity are going to strengthen, right? So they're going to get tighter, while the neural connections for positivity will actually weaken. So this is where we have to take a lot of accountability and say, what are we putting into our minds? Because that's going to impact our mood. If we've had years and years, and I actually went through this myself, I had a lot of negativity in my upbringing. And I had to take it upon myself to change the way that my brain was firing, because as I got into my late, 18, 19 years old, I said, hey, I have all these mechanisms that were helpful maybe when I was 5 or 6, but they're no longer helpful now. So I would be defensive. I would immediately respond to situations in certain ways, because that's how my neural pathways were primed, right? That's the strengthened connections that I had. So it was really important that you have to be very conscious of what you put into your mind, because that's going to determine what strengthens in your brain in terms of emotional reactions and what weakens. So if we put a lot of positivity in, then our brains are going to be more primed for positivity. So I think in general, we have to look at our inputs and say, what are we putting in? How can we improve that? Because that will improve your mood. In addition to getting good night's sleep, moving your body, getting sunlight, taking time to rest. These are all the things that really are the big picture of how does our mood get to the place that it is, right? And it can fluctuate, for women throughout specific times of the cycle. But I think it's important to pay attention to how you feel and make sure you're, again, getting the right nutrients and treating your body with a lot of care and respect. And for me, that helps even everything out, because I take such good care of my body that I don't have a lot of hormonal mood swings. Also looking at things like hormones. And let's talk a little bit about testing, because testing is a big part of biohacking. It's a big part of optimal health. We have to actually look at what's going on in the body. So if you've done everything and you can't seem to correct your mood on your own, then look at what's going on inside the body. Do you have nutrient deficiencies? Is your gut health off? Our gut is directly connected to the brain. So is our gut health influencing our brain in a negative manner? For many people, it is. Gut health is huge, and it's really difficult, I'll be honest, to have great gut health just based on the level of stress that we're experiencing in our day-to-day life. So I think that looking, if you're, like I said, if you've done everything, you're getting morning sun, you're moving your body, you're putting good things into your mind, you're eating well, you're sleeping well, and you still can't get to where you want to be, you have to look at what's going on. Do you have hormonal imbalances? like I said, gut health. Is your thyroid off? Is your diet not giving you the nutrients that you need? Do you have genetic variations that are leading to a bit of mishap in the body? So if you've done everything and you can't figure it out, it's really best to work with like a functional practitioner that can guide you down the path to figuring out what's going on. Because many times it's small things that we don't even realize that are making a big impact on our health. Maybe a food sensitivity.
Yeah.
Maybe you're eating almonds all the time because you heard they're good for you, or walnuts, which walnuts are actually a brain food. They look like a brain. That's an easy way to know. But then if you're having a sensitivity to almonds or walnuts, then they're actually causing inflammation and they're causing, upset within the body, but you might not even notice because it's a problem that's like normalized. Maybe it's a little bit of bloating after you eat, or maybe you get a little bit of brain fog, but you don't really notice because either A, it seems normal to you, or B, you're just not aware enough. So things like that can also lead to all sorts of mood disorders, but also health disorders.
Wow. And you touched a little bit earlier about biohacking, right? So
Yeah.
I think we also are very interested to find out how can we introduce biohacking into our lives, and what exactly is biohacking about for those of us who don't know what it is.
Sure. Biohacking is really just changing the environment internally and externally to benefit your health. The way I see it, and like Dave Asprey, he's like the father of biohacking. A friend of mine, great guy, learned a ton from him. But it's just taking control of your own health. We can't wait around and hope that the system is going to promote health for us, because it's only our job. So that's what biohacking is. It's looking under the hood. So what do we have going on inside this incredibly complex organ? How can we get to the bottom of whatever may be causing us issues, and then using different technology or devices, or just something as simple as, I see all the things we talked about, like sleep and nutrition and sleep, nutrition, movement, as biohacking, but also things like going back to our roots, like what our ancestors would have done, and grounding, making contact with the earth. The earth's frequencies literally are healing to our bodies. They can improve our HRV, or our heart rate variability. They can reduce stress. There's so many things. That's also biohacking. Getting sun is also biohacking in our eyes in the morning. And then you see like all these little pieces of tech that can kind of expedite that process. So things like pulsed electromagnetic fields. So that's basically replicating the Earth's frequencies in a more condensed version. So you can lay down on something called a PEMF mat. A lot of people help with pain management. It helps with it can reduce inflammation in the body. It can help with joints, ligaments, athletic performance. I do a PEMF mat a few times a week after I have a really hard workout. So that's biohacking too. I think when people think of biohacking, they think of like this kind of weird tech stuff going on, and that is a part of it. Sometimes I wear like it's called a V light, and it looks like I don't know, it's like a brain device essentially. So people think it looks a little bit crazy, but it actually puts red light into the nose. So we talked about the benefits of red light for the body, but if you put red light or photobiomodulation therapy up the nose into the brain, it can energize the mitochondria in the brain. So biohacking is really at the most basic form, just taking control of your health, doing, things that make you feel better. And it's a little bit of experimentation too. We don't want to do anything that's going to harm us, of course, or make us feel bad, but playing around with like some supplements that you are interested in, or have data that your body is lacking. So that's really what biohacking is. It's not waiting for your doctor to tell you to go on a pill. It's just let's be proactive about this and do what we can, and make our health the best. I feel like life is so short, and we're working on extending lifespan. And I hope that, we'll see that soon. But it's too short to wake up and feel crummy and have no energy and drag through the day and be angry, like because you didn't get a good night's sleep. It's like we have to just do things that are going to improve our quality of life, because like I said, we don't have a ton of time here, and we want to take advantage. I want everyone to have the most full life possible in every area, in their health, in their relationships, in their career, whatever that might be. But in order to do that, the currency is energy. So we have to have more energy to do the
Yeah.
things that we want to do.
I love that. Kayla, I'm conscious of time, so we are down to the final 10, 15 minutes. And there's been so many great questions that's been coming in for you. But before we get to those, and to all of you tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any other questions, please, feel free to leave a comment or go to the Q&A section. Kayla, I wanted to ask you, for those of us who want to take the intentional step into, like you said, living a full life, being more mindful, and also, taking a step towards having a more optimal health. What are a couple things that you would advise for us to start doing and stop doing?
So start getting some sun in the morning, start going to bed earlier, and start changing your diet. So if you're eating processed foods, just please cut them out. Also, excessive alcohol consumption alcohol is a neurotoxin. There's really no way around that. So I would try to reduce or limit that as much as possible. It'll also wreck your sleep later in the evening. So I would start improving my nutrition, getting more movement. I aim for 10 to 15,000 steps a day. That's just steps, low level movement. And then of course I work out like 5 or so times a week with either a trainer or on my own. So more movement, better diet, better sleep. These 3 things right here will change your life. If you just focus on those and nothing else. Things to stop doing also is try to stop having toxic people and toxic products in your life. If you have people that are bringing you down on a daily basis and taking up ton of your mental space because there's a lot of drama or there's a lot of negativity, then I would stop doing that for sure. And also be careful of the products in your home environment. I try to make my home as much of a sanctuary and zero toxin as possible, from the water to the products. There's some numbers out there saying that women leave the house with about 200 different chemicals on our skin every single day, right? And those products are seeping into our skin. So I use a couple of apps called Think Dirty or Look at the Environmental Working Group. I'll see if that's available where you guys are too, but it'll say maybe, here's the cleaner option. So we want to make sure that we have a clean home environment as well. So those would be really my top tips. Just keep it simple. Get out of nature whenever you can, because nature is really healing, very therapeutic. But it's just really sticking with the basics, master those first. And then there's all sorts of really cool biohacking tech that you could eventually use. Like I do like red light therapy. I do vitamin IVs like every single week. I do NAD. I just started doing curcumin IVs. I won't go into all the crazy stuff that I do right now, but you've got to master the basics first.
Got it. Thank you. That's so helpful, especially for all of us that's early in this journey as well. So I'm going to a couple of the questions that's been sent to you, Kayla. Someone asked, is happy food a myth or a fact? Are there really foods out there that make us happy after we eat it?
Yes, I mean, food influences your mood. So like saffron is actually an incredible mood booster. Saffron is great. So, I mean, all the things I talked about. Are you going to, in a realistic term, are you immediately going to be all of a sudden going from very sad to jumping with joy? You're not. I mean, it's not a magic pill. It's not a silver bullet. But yes, there are definitely foods that are going to influence your neurotransmitters in a way that is going to make you happier. So saffron is great. The organic blueberries, cacao. I mean, cacao should probably make you pretty happy by eating it anyway, because it tastes amazing, but then it also gives you all the brain benefits. So these are things that are cumulative, like they increase with potency and power over time. It's not you have one blueberry and then, but yes, I do believe that food is one of the biggest influencers on mood possible. I mean, eating refined foods and tons of packaged foods, it's going to negatively affect your neurotransmitters, negatively affect your brain health, which is then going to negatively affect your mood.
Thank you. Well, that's amazing. The other question, someone asked, how important is it to sleep and rise with the sun? I'm a night owl and I sleep mostly during the day.
It's not ideal to do that because, like I said, going back to our circadian rhythms, these are our natural sleep wake cycles. And I also understand that some people are night shift workers, they work in the night, and they can't do anything about it right now. But if you have the option, it's really important to rise and wake with the sun because we want our bodies to be in the natural state, right? So even when we eat food is also, important. If we're eating throughout the night, it's going to be, again, disrupting our circadian rhythm. So, and there's different types of sleep chronotypes, dolphin, wolf, all these things. But if we can, we want to get to bed earlier.
Okay, so yes, I think it's important to go to bed when it's at night and rise with the sun. The other question is, what are your thoughts around fasting?
I think fasting is great. I don't think that we were ever designed evolutionarily to eat all the time. I mean, this is new that we can go grab food anytime we want. So my couple tips on fasting, I think it's great. I think you don't need to overdo it. Women need to be more careful because we have, of course, our cycles. So we don't want to feel so restrictive on ourselves, but I fast every day. There's no world in which I think we need to be eating every waking moment that we're up, or eating in the middle of the night if people do that. So maybe I usually do probably about 16 hours and I eat with between 8 to anywhere from 8 to 5 hour window, to be honest.
So it's kind of like the intermittent fasting that you do.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And one final question before we wrap this up, Kayla, how can we keep track of our progress in our brain health, especially when we embark on this journey?
Journaling is a great way to do it. I mean, you could do something more advanced, like some neurofeedback or some training or QEEG or something of that nature to tell you about your brain health or SPECT scans. But if we're talking about something just to do at home, keep a journal and keep notes of how you're feeling. I try to keep notes about emotions that come up throughout the day so I can kind of address those at some point. I take an inventory of my day every night. So where could I have done better? How did I feel? Did I do everything I said I was going to do? So many different things at the end of the night, but I take an inventory. So I think journaling and documenting are going to be a good way to track your brain health, but you'll just feel better. I mean, I say commit to making lifestyle changes for 30 days if you can. And I've seen it so many times, like everything will change.
Thank you so much. And, to wrap this up, Kayla, do you have a final word of advice or encouragement for all of us, especially as we continue to, follow you and your sharings on this journey as we embark on, having better brain health and optimal health?
I think going back to where we started, just know that you have the power to change your life, regardless of where you started, where you're at right now. There's always things that we can do and that you deserve it. I mean, you deserve the most full, beautiful life, but discipline equals freedom, right? So we have to have the discipline in order to achieve the things that we want because we will not just be handed these things. And if we wait around for someone to give it to us, we're going to be waiting forever. So you take the power back and optimal health will energize you in everything else that you do.
Thank you so much, Kayla. This has been such an insightful session for me. And thank you so much to all of you for joining us tonight. And, if you're dialing in from any other parts of the world, thank you so much also for joining us. So many of you have been asking if this session will be recorded. Yes, it will be recorded, and we'll also be sharing our consolidated learnings on a post sometime this week. So follow us on Love Bonito. And Kayla, can you let us know and share with us, where can we find you? Where can we follow you and learn from you?
Yeah, so my Instagram, which is attached here, Kayla Barnes. I have a podcast called Brain Biohacking, and then I have some articles on my website, kaylabarnes.com.
Thank you so much, Kayla, and I hope to catch you soon in person. And thank you so much for your time, your generosity in sharing, and your wisdom. Have a great day ahead.
Absolutely. You too.
Bye.
Bye.